We'd like to start out by thanking our valuable sponsors. Sense of Satisfaction by Cricket is the place for all your fragrance needs. Plus, she's got products to heal what ails your skin and your hair. Shop at scentsbycricket.com. Special thanks to our valued sponsor, John Travis, a financial coach and certified Kingdom advisor with Richard Young Associates, a registered investment advisor. Thanks goes to Anna Patterson, my sister in the Lord who faithfully gives to this ministry every month. And to our newest sponsor, LaToya Gerard of Preach the Word Worldwide Network. She is a valued sponsor and a major encourager regarding this ministry. We need and would love to have you as a sponsor. Absolutely no gift is too small. Please note the info regarding giving throughout and at the end of the show, and help us spread these testimonies around the world. Please note that the views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily the viewpoints of our sponsors. It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together. Tell me about, as you transitioned into high school, where did we go?
I was already out of high school, but transitioning as I transitioned on, I was still dealing with low self-esteem. So as far as that's concerned, I feel like it didn't get better for me, even though I made good grades in school. And then in high school, junior high, I think ninth grade, became a cheerleader and everything. You would think I would have high self-esteem. No, did not. Okay. Still dealing with low self-esteem and the isolation. And so I'm just going to fast forward a little bit to at 16, I became pregnant.
Okay.
Devastated my world, in my opinion.
Okay.
What am I going to do?
Right.
Here I was, very smart, a cheerleader, and pregnant.
Okay.
Scared. Scared to tell my family. During this time, wasn't popular to have a child out of wedlock.
Right.
So the shame made me hide.
Okay.
I hid. My own mother didn't know I was pregnant till I was 6 months pregnant.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. Wow. I started wearing big clothes. Okay. I hid it. I still cheered until I was 5 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
But one thing I learned from that, denial don't make it true.
Right.
Denial.
It will not make it go away.
It ain't going to make it go away.
Right.
The fact was you were.
Yes.
And so trying to process all of that.
Right.
I'm a child myself. Yeah. So here I was expecting a child, and I was a child myself. But because I didn't know what to do. So I went to my familiar place, was my isolation.
Okay.
And I think that's what the fear, the isolation, not knowing what to do,
right,
not having anyone that I felt I could confide in, because I'm sure there was someone, but that I think is the biggest trick of the enemy, is making you think that you have no one.
Right.
And making you think you're the only one. And you're the first one.
And none of that is true.
None of that is true.
Right.
But again, when you're in that situation, so that's why a lot of times I found myself having so much compassion for young teenage girls who when people say, how could she go and do that? How could she, even put the baby in the trash, put the baby.
Right. Desperation.
That fear. And like you said, desperation will make you do things you thought you were never capable of doing.
Right.
Because you just don't know. And the fear is so overwhelming. It penetrates through every thought that you have.
Right. So you didn't share with any siblings?
I did not.
No friends?
I did not.
Well, like you said, you were in denial.
Yeah.
Could you feel the baby moving, Vivi?
When I got to, I guess, like the 5th, 6th month, yeah. But the thing was, I was so little back then.
Okay.
I think I was like 90 pounds back then. And so I didn't grow a lot. Okay. Just had a little baby bump, a little, small baby bump. I didn't actually start showing until that 6th month.
Okay.
When I could no longer hide it.
Well, how did it come out? Like, not the baby, but the news.
Yeah, no, not the baby. The baby came out the natural way, little big head boy. But I finally, after I knew I could not hide it any longer, I went to my mom. Okay. The worst part outside of the fear was knowing to see the disappointment on her face. I dreaded. But I knew I was at the point that, and even in that, she's like, okay, we're going to take you. She took me to the doctor to see, I already know, Mama.
Right.
But, so from that point on, my mama supported me because I was her daughter. But at the same time, I already knew this your responsibility, girl. Right. This is not something that you're going to put on to your mom or anyone else. This is on you.
Right. Wow.
And he was born when I was 17. I think it was the end of my I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
So I found myself.
Did the people in school ever know before you had the baby?
They knew around that time because during that time they had where you could set up a tutor to come to your house while you were on that 6 weeks maternity leave. Okay. So my guidance counselor at the school at the time set everything up for that to happen. Of course, there was, why don't you just go ahead and quit school? It's going to be difficult to raise a child and still go to school. No, that's not an option for me.
Right.
I know that I'm going to have to do both. And that's what I did. So, yeah, that was a very, very difficult time for me. Okay. A blessing now. Love my son to life.
Right.
But at the time when you're a 16, 17-year-old child, to be faced with that, and like I said, it wasn't a popular thing then. Right. Even when I going into labor and went into the OR to have the baby, the nurses, what are you doing in here? You a child yourself. Things, I already know this. Right. You don't have to speak this to further, damage me. I already know this. But afterwards, because I've been the type of person, I have a very high tolerance for pain and everything. And so the way that he was born, they didn't have time to give me the medication. Okay. So when I say he was natural, he was very natural. Okay. So afterwards, those same nurses that talked bad about me came and gave me praise for how I did and what I did. But from that point on, I got a little person here. Right. That I'm now responsible with. A whole human. Beautiful little boy.
Now, was his father still in the picture?
He was. His father was a football player. I was a cheerleader. My only boyfriend during high school. We dated for well over the whole high school almost. So he was at the time. So he was a year ahead of me. Okay. So he graduated a year ahead of me and went to the military. Okay. and everything, but I was still raising the child. So we were together until he was like 1.5 or 2. So, and then things, fell apart.
How did the dynamics in the house change? Not did they? I know they changed. But how did the dynamics in the dynamic in the house change with a little boy in the house, a newborn?
Yeah. So being the youngest child of 7, my responsibilities in the house were basically none.
Okay.
My mama still washed my clothes and did things for me. Well, now, guess what? You got to grow up, little girl.
Okay.
You need to start not just doing for this child, doing for yourself and all of that. But granted, my mom was still working with my aunt and working outside the home herself some. So I had to do, what I had to do. So let's fast forward to, he was 2, I think, when I graduated high school.
Okay.
So I was sitting there one day and I said, you got a person you're responsible for. What are you going to do? Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? Because, like I said, I didn't come from a family that had a whole lot.
Right.
During that time, my family didn't even have a car.
Okay.
The household did not have a vehicle. And where I grew up, we call it the country. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like you could walk to a lot of places. Mm-hmm. So I finished high school and ended up finishing in the close to the top of my class. Okay. Even with the challenges that I faced. Okay. So I said, you've got to do something to afford this child a better life. Mm-hmm. If you want better for him, you have to do something. Right. So I enrolled in Aiken Technical College. Mm-hmm. Didn't know how I was going to get there.
Okay.
The night before my classes were to start, that Sunday night, my mom was like, what are you going to do? How are you going to get there? And I said, I don't know, Mama, but I know I have to go. Mm-hmm. The phone rings. It was my mom's first cousin. They're on the phone, chitting, chatting, just talking about life. Mm-hmm. And I overheard her say her son was getting ready to start at Aiken Tech the next morning. Mm. And I said, Mama, will you ask her to ask her son if he would come pick me up and I can ride to school with him? Mm. The night before classes were getting ready to start.
And so right there, that makes me think, okay, so from the mama side, I would probably, mama, I'm trying to move my thinking. But I'd have been like, now how foolish is this? Mm-hmm. She ain't got no way. She ain't got no... But it's called faith.
Mm-hmm. But at the time, I didn't know it was called that I was walking out on faith.
Exactly.
I just knew it was survival.
And a lot of people don't. But I'm learning to shut me down because sometimes I'm like, how do that even make sense?
Right.
But you never know what God is using in a person's life to build faith.
Yeah.
Like you say, you didn't know that's what it was called. Yeah. But you knew something had to happen.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm hearing, even though you didn't know you were hearing. This is what you were hearing needed to happen.
Yeah. And like Bishop always say, if you don't like your life, change it.
Yes. Yes.
And I knew I didn't like what I was looking at that I was going to be able to afford for this child. Mm-hmm. Something different had to happen. Mm-hmm. And so I stepped out and God made it good.
Yes, 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 yes.
He made it good. And so I started classes. And during that time, Aiken Tech had a transportation van that you could pay $5 per week. And they would come to your house and pick you up.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. And bring you back home.
$5 a week.
$5. A whole $5.
Wow.
And so initially, the first week or whatever, I rode with my cousin and then I started to ride that van.
Because if you had not stepped out,
Had
you
not.
would have never even known. Possibly.
I wouldn't have known. There wasn't anything that was being publicized or anything like that. Yeah.
So had you gotten a scholarship to go to Aiken Tech?
No, I actually, I got a grant.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a grant. And so it was a 2-year program. I actually didn't start until that January. You know, the classes had already started in the fall. So when I started, I was behind everybody else. So I had to take a full load to get caught up.
So wait a minute. Because you say to catch up, but so you just mean to catch up with where your classmates would have been. Oh, so even with the curriculum, they moved at a certain...
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It was on a quarterly basis.
Right.
And they had already completed the first quarter when I came in. So I went to talk to the advisor over the program.
What did you major in?
Nuclear engineering technology.
How did you, what did you know about that at that time?
I know nothing about it, but my guidance counselor at high school had mentioned it. And she said, I think this would be a good program for you.
Okay.
And like I said, I always had good grades in school and everything. So it was just.
Okay.
And during that time, you know, the Savannah Riverside was the place to work. And I figured if I could get this type of degree, that would give me a better chance to work at the site.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So you said you took a full load.
I took a full load. In fact, the advisor let me take 2 of the classes on, I can't remember the word, but a self-study.
Okay. I was going to say independent study.
Yes. You did a self-study and you just went into his classes and took the exam. I took a full load the first quarter and made the dean's list.
While you managed to
managed.
Now, did you have a lot of help at home with the other hands that were there?
My mom would help me. You know, she kept him while I was in school.
Okay.
You know, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was very much your responsibility.
My responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So what did late night study? You got him in the arm and trying to read?
What it looked like a lot was putting him down after got him settled or whatever. And then, you know, and fortunately for me, I've never had to really study a whole. It's almost like I could remember things quite with ease a lot.
Okay.
So, but was able to go through that program, complete the program along with everybody else. You know, and yeah.
That's amazing grace.
Yeah, amazing grace, exactly.
So when you finished tech, which way did you go? Now let me ask you this. So did Carlos have all the time or did you still have your nose open?
Carlos, during that time, because remember, not long after, he and we split.
Okay.
So he had that time. But during that time also, when I was at Aiken Tech, it's when I met my husband.
Okay. Okay.
He was going to Aiken Tech at that time. As well.
Okay.
So, but fortunately, I did not start dating him until after I had completed.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha. You kept things in perspective.
I knew why I was there for a purpose.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So once you left tech, where did you go, I guess, personally, as far as a job? What did your life look like at that time?
So when I left Aiken Tech, I did not start working immediately. So I think I finished Aiken Tech, I was 19, I think. Yeah, 19 would have been 20 that December.
Okay.
And not long after I finished Aiken Tech, I started dating my ex-husband now. But yeah, started dating him. And got involved, got my nose open, fell in love, all that kind of good stuff. So ended up he and I getting together, and then moving. I actually moved to Augusta.
Okay.
Actually moved to Augusta then during that time.
How did that go as far as family was concerned, and the type of, like, I would say, traditional home that you came from? How did that move feel, taking that step?
Well, actually, honestly, the move happened based off of a unfortunate event.
Okay.
To where there was a altercation that took place, and so in order to not have that continue like that, felt it was best to make that move.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it was somewhat of a necessity.
It was. So, but during that time, I think then Carlos was small. So, of course, this home, my mom's home, was the only home he had ever known. Right. So it was a little adjustment for him to take him from around his family that he's used to seeing every day and everything, and then to now you living, in a different place. Right. So that was an adjustment for him.
Okay. And so as you continued, had you started working at this point?
No, still had not started working.
Okay.
I didn't start working. I started working at the site. I was 22 years old.
Okay. So you were his full-time caregiver then?
I was.
Okay.
I was.
Okay.
So did a lot of teaching him at home and things like that. But yeah, basically a house, not saying a housewife, but basically just taking care of the home.
Right. At home mom.
Yeah, at home mom. That's right.
So tell me, what's the next major thing that comes into your mind? Because did you get married shortly thereafter, or?
I actually got married at 21. I think I was 21. Yeah, I think I was 21.
So you got married before you started at the site?
I did.
Okay.
I did. So not long after I left, moved in with he was then my boyfriend. And then got pregnant with my second child.
Okay.
And then we got married, I think 3 months later.
Okay.
So had my second child. That was had a few health issues with him. He was born 6 weeks premature, and stayed like 19 days in the NICU. Okay. And everything like that. So I didn't immediately start working after that. Because once he came home from the NICU, had to make sure, he was okay, because initially, he had some problems with the heart valve closing and all kinds of things like that. So stayed home with him. I started working. When I started working at the site, I think 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant with my third child.
Girl, hush.
2 weeks. And I'm like, Lord.
So there was no need to question your fertility.
Exactly. 2 weeks after, I started working there.
Oh, wow.
So, but fortunately, they were very understanding.
That's good.
And I was placed in a position at the job where I didn't have to be around radiation or anything like that, so I was placed more so in a more office type setting.
So did they do that? Was that the natural place you were going, or once they found out you were pregnant, they shifted you?
During that time, they gave you a choice of where they had like 3 different positions on the table that I could have chose.
Gotcha.
I chose that particular facility because it was new, it was being built.
Okay.
So I knew that for the safety as for the being pregnant would be safer at that facility.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot for a 23-year-old.
Yes, it was. It was a whole lot.
Wow.
And so I started working, like I said, down there. I was already pregnant, found out.
Let me ask you this. Remember where you were.
Okay.
Again, this is your perspective, not what, just like you said earlier, how you that it was how you felt. Maybe you had people you could go to. You sure you did, but just it didn't feel that way.
Right.
At this time in your life, could you feel supported? Did you feel support from the outside? When I say the outside, from outside where you were living, from outside of your home with your boyfriend and husband, could you feel support, or did you still kind of feel like a loner?
I think when I moved, my support I felt then came from my boyfriend, then husband's mom.
Okay.
Because she was a strong believer.
Okay.
And she would constantly remind me, I'm praying for you, Viv. And anything I would say, because a lot of times when you're going through things in your life, you try to shield it from your family. And you tend to share it more so with their family.
So she became your soft place.
She became that. And I used to say, I don't know if I could deal with this. And she would encourage me, you could do this. And she would always remind me of how much she was praying for me.
Okay. That's special.
That was very...
Especially when a lot of people have mother-in-law, horror stories.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at thessbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together. We need and would love to have you as a sponsor. Absolutely no gift is too small. Please note the info regarding giving and help us spread these testimonies around the world.